longtime friends blending the spine-chilling thrills of horror and true crime.
The wildest Reddit stories.
And the hottest pop culture moments. One bold episode at a time. Welcome to The
The
Bold
Bold Blend.
Blend.
I'm Nate.
I'm Kate.
And I'm Ange.
I think for the first time after all those episodes, we got our intro right.
Yeah.
One take na to, guys. One take.
Di mo kita cut to.
Yeah. So, yeah, hi again, everyone. So, we are on episode 17 for today. So, ang title sa atong episode is Mind Games and Manipulation. So, let's start. So, ako ang muna. So, kani ako story, nagisgot mi ni Nea earlier ko nga, kay Bao ka nga story bro, wa siya kay Bao. And like, na-amaze ko, hala, wa siya kay Bao ni. Like, and ganahan ko kay kanang fresh ang reactions nga itong makuha karon nga episode for this story. So, what if the perfect family portrait was hiding the worst nightmare imaginable? 13 siblings, identical clothes, smiling faces. But behind closed doors, chains, starvation, and silence. So this week, we're diving into the chilling case of the Turpin family. So a true story of psychological domination, religious manipulation, and children who were prisoners in their own home. So, familiar mo ni si Kate, nakadungog ka nga story, Kate, wala pa.
I think familiar siya, but it could be like marag inspired lang tingali ani nga case ang akong mga nadunggan.
Alright, so let's get into it. So here, imagine this. You're scrolling through Facebook and see a family photo. 13 kids dressed in identical outfits, big smiles, mom and dad beaming, another shot at Disneyland, matching t-shirts. It's strange, sure, but mostly sweet, right? But behind those smiles was something rotten. A secret so dark it would take a child's desperate escape to finally bring the truth to light. So this is the story of the Turpin family who, for over 2 decades, lived in a twisted world built on fear, control, and manipulation, all hidden in plain sight.
You had me at matching clothes. That's weird.
Yeah. We'll show pictures later on. So here, David and Louise Turpin seemed like a regular couple. He worked as an engineer. She stayed home with the kids. They had 13 children born between 1988 and 2015. Friends and extended family thought they were just quirky, a little odd, a little reclusive. But what nobody knew was that the Turpin household in Paris, California was more like a prison. And David and Louise weren't parents. They were captors. So inside their suburban home, the kids lived in absolute horror. They were starved, beaten, shackled to their beds for days, sometimes weeks. They weren't allowed to bathe. They couldn't play with toys. They weren't even allowed to speak to each other without permission. Right? It's so twisted. Nitanaw ko sa documentary ganina. And like,
What's the title?
muram to siya kanang feature na sa ABC, kanang, ano to? Escape from the House of Horror something. And like, basta loy jud kayo. So here, most of them didn't know what a police officer was. Some didn't even know their own birth date. So, and school, that was a lie too. Louise told the state she was homeschooling the children. But in reality, their education was nearly non-existent. By the time police rescued them, the 17-year-old didn't know the word medication. A few of the younger kids couldn't recite the alphabet. So yeah, grabe kayo, makathink ka ba nga, grabihan no nga, anak jud nga point nga hasta alphabet, like kita man ko sa interview sa police and like naay mga words nga mo na ang bata nga katong 17-year-old nga unsa murag wa siya kay ba unsa na nga word ba inana gani. Yeah, so here the Turpins used manipulation as a weapon. So Louise quoted Bible verses to justify punishment. They told the kids that outsiders were dangerous and that if anyone ever escaped, terrible things would happen. So they stayed silent, terrified, starving. Until one child decided to risk everything. So, mura siya kanang sa movie, jud bitaw. So, out of the 13 children, naay naka-escape nga isa. Nya mao siya ang nitawag sa police niya, nisumbong niya, nangayo og help. So, her name was Jordan Turpin and she was 17 years old. One morning in January 2018, Jordan climbed out of a window with a deactivated cell phone. One she had secretly charged just enough to call 911. So it was the first time she had ever spoken to a stranger on the phone. Her voice trembled. She told the dispatcher her siblings were being abused. She couldn't even give the exact address because she had never been allowed outside. Like, kato akong gitanaw gani na sa YouTube kay naji ka na sa body cam gani sa police. Like, kanang naapod ang call sa dispatch nga kanang asa man ka karon unsa inyong address, wala siya kay bawo sa ilang address nya na siya gipang storya nga numbers niya na ang katong sa 911 nga dili ni siya address imo ning zip code, kailangan nako ang address kay wala siya kay balo, wala siya kay balo. So inanak ba nga wow nya during katong nanay police ni adto niya na siya nga sorry first time ni nako makistorya og laing tao ni ana siya. Sorry, first time na ako mag-story. Wala ako kay bawod sa ako isulti. Niya siya nga, sorry if I'm talking a lot, pero kulbaan jud ko. Inana, ihang gipang storya sa police. Yeah. So, dito sa kato akong gitanaw ganina kay gikuha niya daan ang kay gi-interview man po to ang police. So, iyang gikuha daan ang bata. Wala niya gipabalik or unsa. Kay mas safe man together with him. So, muto na ngayon sila back up na. So, when police arrived, they didn't know what to expect. But what they found was unforgettable. Dirty mattresses. The house reeked of waste and decay. Children, pale and emaciated, stood frozen. So the youngest was 2 years old. The oldest, 29. But so malnourished, officers thought she was a teenager. Yeah. Police described it as stepping into a real-life horror movie. Yeah. Like, na-joy videos. Naman, at kato nga akong gitanaw sa YouTube, kaya na-clip sa kanang murag anniversary sa parents ba. So, naa sila event niya. Naa ang 13 ka kids. Mga wangkig kaayo. Like, makita gani mga digit healthy. Daghan sila nga babae actually. But sa katong clip ako nakita kay gipang tabunan man ilang naong katurang duha ka older ones. So David and Luis were arrested that same day. They eventually pleaded guilty to multiple charges of torture, false imprisonment, child cruelty, and were sentenced to life in prison. But the story didn't end there. So luoy jud mga bata. So the Turpin children were placed in state care. Some tried to attend school for the first time. Others struggled with PTSD, anxiety, and severe trust issues. And tragically, several of them ended up in abusive foster homes, re-victimizing them all over again.
Kaluoy.
Yeah, so it's a haunting reminder that rescue doesn't equal recovery. Like, imagine going through the same thing ba? Like, dagan ba jud kay sila? Ang youngest kay 2, di ba? So, mo to siya, the most heartbreaking part, this nightmare lasted for decades and no one, not neighbors, not family, not the state, ever stepped in. So, maybe they thought the Turpins just homeschooled. Maybe they believed the kids were just quiet. Maybe the smiles in those photos made it all seem fine. But the Turpins were expert at playing the part, curating a social media image so carefully you'd never suspect a thing. So I'm guessing kusuguro mo post ang parents online, nadad na to sila Disneyland, but then katong sa interview niya na jud to ang oldest nga, di jud na siya tinuod. Like katong party kay happy kay sila, sayo-sayo sila but iniguli nila kay di jud daw siya tinuod. Kanang chain ang iyahang mga manghod kay ingnon sila nga nag-steal sila food. And naay ang gingon atong oldest nga ilang food ra kay bread og peanut butter.
Uy,
Oh, and like always ra daw mag-take out ang parents in ana niya di sila tagaan.
Oh,
Nya,
no,
nya
no.
ingnon nila ang mga bata nga inyuhan ning sala nganong wala tay tarong food. Inanaon niya ang mga bata like
Di naman sila trabaho. Ano may trabaho ang
aha,
engineer
aha.
barangay, di ba?
Yeah, yeah. Lagi, makaanak ka ba nga ka-twisted? Uy, so yeah. So, because that's the power of manipulation. It hides in plain
Right.
sight until someone finds the courage to speak. And sometimes, all it takes to tear down a world built on lies is one broken window and a girl who said, enough.
Yeah.
So,
Go,
yeah,
Jordan.
muna siya ang story sa Turpin family which was very twisted. Nakanadyo ko nga, makaya nila, no? Like, naaman sa dito ang clip pag abot sa police niya, pag open sa door sa katong parents, and like, kita dyan mo sa ilang face nga nakulbaan sila. In ana ba niya? Napoy pictures sa place, pag abot nila, so hugaw jud kayo. And like, ang beds, mga double deck ba na?
Double
Double
deck,
deck
yeah.
na beds, oh.
bunk bed.
Na chains. Each bed na ay chain. Kay
So,
matod
man.
palagi nila i-chain ang mga bata. And another katong ni-escape si Jordan kay medyo na-expose siya, ni-share siya nga katong during nga time daw kay idol kanya si Justin Bieber. Mo yan pang tan-awon pirmi nga videos niya. Ano to siya nga, if manglakaw iyang parents, mag-record siya nga magkanta-kanta siya niya, iyang i-post online. And ana, so murag nagsige ra gyapon sila kawat-kawat ba sa kana ilang time nga maka social media sila ato nga time. But yeah, muna siya. Very twisted, no?
But, yeah, like, I think, grabe no, 29 ang eldest nila, but wala, I think, may kay pagkaluto ilahang
Yeah.
minds in a
Ang naa
way.
dito kay naka-school to for like 3 until grade 3 ang katong oldest nila nya batod pa kay after to na gawas ilang story kay naay murag classmate niya ba nga ni nagpost og something nga mo man ni siya ang katong likayan sa tanan nya wala ta kay baw nga mo na din giagian na.
Oh.
Mo to siya. So, muna siya guys. So, do you think people ignored red flags because they don't want to be involved? Like, ang family, ang neighbors.
Right.
I wonder po like, what do you naka-think nga shady Jude? No?
I mean, if this happened in the Philippines, it wouldn't have lasted that long.
Yeah, kay marites kay mga tao.
Away lang mga anak ko, ikaw gawas.
Yeah. In like, kato sila kay normal Jude, like nice ilahang house. Like,
On the
kanang
outside
decent
siguro.
ra ang house ba? Na. But then, yeah, imagine 13 ka kids.
That's fishy.
Now that I think about it ba, I think naka-hear na ko na and nakasisad ko sa body cam footage good sa police. Tapos siya sa curb or something gi
Oo,
ko na.
oo.
Kakita na di ko na.
Mm.
Ala ka sad bitaw jud ato nagpicture ko karon sa kuan ba sa naong sa ilahang gi buyan. Muna no sometimes maingog ka no dindot na license mga tao no para mga anak ba ganang kailangan mo pasar og exam or something. So kana ganing just because you can reproduce doesn't mean you should, diba?
Yeah.
And if dili kaya, I mean financially ba, dili kaya, murag, nagpadayon naman sila, like, sus, twisted na nila yung minds.
It is. And sad kayo og lives ang kids kay like they went through abuse their entire life and kana ganing I don't know ang ilahang minds kay giset nga maybe what was happening to them was normal na
Yeah.
it's a normal thing if makasako kay chain ko sa bed. That sucks so bad nga that is what you consider normal nga kanang I don't know, maybe the younger ones would think, maybe the ingana gid ang life, maybe other kids, if there are other kids out there, they experience this too, and it's completely fine. And then what's worse was after they were rescued. Okay, they some of them went through a fresh kind of hell, and I cannot imagine how that would have affected their minds. Nga kana ganing kuan na daan kanang lahi na daan ang gipang tudlo sa ilaha niya. Kuan na po sila og lain nga kind of abuse. So, would they know nga abuse na to ang ilahang na experience if it's from someone else, or I don't know, diba?
Yeah, I
Yeah, it
agree.
sucks.
Yeah. Luoy jud no. And like to think ba daghan pa jud kay sila. But
Kung
grabe
gani.
jud ang courage pod ato ni Jordan no. Nga nigawas siya, like ningita jud siya way like well na siya sa call kaya na siya nga kanang kanang hadlok siya kay what if daw kanang nakitaan siya nilitli baka sa window or unsa inana. And like katong na siya sa police car niya na siya nga, do you think kay ba imong parents nga nilakaw ka, or do you think murag niya na dito nga, do you think gibuhian na imuhang siblings nga gichain karon to na siya nga if
Mm.
kay baw sila nga nilakaw ko for sure gibuhian na to. And ana kay baw
Oh.
man nga ni ano niya katong nana daw ang police sa ilahang place gipangutan na siya, do you want to get inside in ana niya na siya nga no kay sure ko kapatyon ko
Mm.
diha dayon bisag na apay mga tao niya na siya
Oh,
hmm.
dang.
Scary kayo lagi, no? Like, evil jud is real.
Yeah, unimaginable kaya ang ilang go through to have to survive that long, especially for that 29-year-old.
Yeah,
29
I
years of your
know.
life.
No, like almost 3 decades nga in ana imuhang parents. Eh.
She's pretty much our age, diba? Can you
Mm,
imagine if
mm.
if
Yeah,
all your
katong
life.
kay interview man to sila together. Very like makakita jud ka nga strong kay personality si Jordan ba. Nga siya jud kanang iyang i-comfort iyang ate inana kay mo
Mm,
makainom but like gamay kay iyang ate. Di ka mo kaingon nga 29. Wala gito nga
ang
naaan nga
rough
teenager
watch.
pag rescue. So yeah. Imagine bread og peanut butter lang ilang kinaon. Yeah, all fast food. Usay daw
Oh,
mga
oh,
frozen food in ana.
Oh,
kaso.
kalbo eh.
Mm.
That's a tough one. Well, it's not gonna get any better because my story is also bad.
Oh no. But yeah, the thing here guys, kamo if di mo ready manganak, ayaw mo panganak. Inyo pa dyung imunog 13 ka buok.
Oh no, kalbo
True.
jud ang DMD.
And for me, like, kanang procreation, mo ba na? Kanang mag-make of babies. It's something that you do out of love because you want to create something that you want to love.
Yeah, you wanna
Uh,
nourish and all.
yes. People stress me out.
It just makes you wonder ba, unsa may go through or unsa naa sa minds sa ilang parents, no, to make them suffer like that gani, no?
Kana sad bro. Nga, kasi nabot sila sa.
Hmm.
Nga,
Mm.
dibil-dibil sila sa mga anak.
Pero naabe murag naam to'y part dito like kung ano ako nung siya gi-background noise na part dito nga naa daw toy dito ang usa sa kid nga naay camera iyang Barbie. Then naay video, na naay video nga gipakita nga na iyang papa and like very smiling man iyang papa murag padung mo gawa sa door ba sa isa yung room niya ni babay pa. Inana ka ng, I don't know if it was in a creepy way, but naman sa toy parts dito nga, muan na jud sila nga ilang mama very absent gud daw. Wala jud daw ilang mama permi. And muan na to nga she hates us. So na jud siya sa mama ang problem. I don't know pod no, murag wasa siguro yung balls ang dad to do something about it. Or gapareho lang sa jud sila.
Sayang, 13 lives. Wala, we mess up. So, like I mentioned earlier, it's not gonna get any better because this is a messed up story. Ako ang Reddit. Taas siya, guys, so bear with me. Okay, so this is from the subreddit Let's Not Meet. This is where I go to if I want to look for creepy stories. But meet talaga sa ato ang theme today. User's name is Abby Amok. So this is from 2 years ago. Okay, so disclaimer, kanang na siya graphic depictions of manipulation, verbal, physical and psychological abuse. So it's called That Time I Accidentally Dated a Sociopath. So it has taken me many years to tell this story out of both fear and embarrassment. I share this today as more than simply therapy for myself, but as a warning to all people, be careful who you meet on social media. Ooh, this is something we've talked about before. In 2018, my ex husband and I were at the end of a very tumultuous marriage. He and I had been polyamorous for about 3 years before I met this guy. His name was Jez. I met Jez on OkCupid. I was 28, he was 42. So, yeah. Yeah. We hit it off very quickly. After a few weeks of talking, I agreed to meet up with him at a restaurant close to my house. We sat and talked for a few hours before I invited him to meet my husband. What a setup. Things went very well, and they seemed to get along, so Jez and I started dating. This guy completely swept me off my feet. Jez was sweet and caring. He enthusiastically listened to every little thing on my mind, engaged and validated me. Over and over again, he absolutely revered me for my strength and wisdom. He practically worshipped me for all that I was and all I was becoming. He showered me with gifts, flowers, and random good deeds just to make me feel safe, wanted, and cared for. I had never been in a relationship that felt quite like that. It was wonderful. It was as though we had been looking for each other for years. No, sana naman dyan. Nasa so good. After the first few weeks, he had a meltdown over my polyamorous nature. He pulled the plug because he said he was already falling for me and couldn't handle sharing me. I stood my ground and accepted this boundary and the fact that I would have to let him go. I left that night sad but confident that I had done the right thing for the both of us. The next week, he sent me flowers and a card to my workplace, begging me for another chance and reassuring me that he would rather try than not and end up regretting it. Even though it was scary, he wanted to make this journey with me. We continued dating and it was just as wonderful. Long nights we spent awake talking, sharing, laughing, lovemaking, and planning. We went we went places and did things that I had always wanted to do. Then, in the deepest, most intimate moments, when we would just sit in silence, he would grip my hand to his face in solidarity and astonishment, asking me where I've been all this time. Our time together was effortless. We fit together like puzzle pieces. By August of 2018, my marriage had ended. By no fault of Jez's. And by October, my husband had moved out. I was on a lease at the time, and I knew I couldn't afford the place on my own. So finding a roommate was essential. I had no support system to fall back on, nor did anyone else I know need a place at that time. So Jez offered to move in. Even then, I was hesitant. We had only been together for about 4 months, and I knew everything always changes when you move in with a partner. Despite my hesitation, I agreed. He was wonderful to me. How bad could it be? I was not prepared for the change that was to come. It was literally like night and day. Jez suddenly became a different person. He was extremely controlling, jealous, and lazy. Nothing like the person I thought I had met. And the way he treated me progressively got worse and worse. Hanging out with friends became a burden, if not impossible, because he would blow up my phone, guilting me about leaving him alone and not involving him in some way. Yet, when I tried to, it was also treated as a burden and an inconvenience as he would huff and puff his way through even the concept of leaving space for anyone but ourselves. So, yeah. In December of 2018, we attended my work Christmas party. I had given him the option whether he wanted to go or not. It was really neither here or there for me, especially because I had already learned that he didn't really do well if he felt pressured into social situations. I opened the invitation to him because he had expressed to me over and over that it was important for him that he was involved in my social life. For the full month, he knew about it. He insisted that he wasn't going. I took it as him being introverted and didn't push the issue. I let him know that I would make sure he felt welcome if he decided to go, but not to feel obligated. I was surprised when he changed his mind at the last minute and insisted on going. And even more stunned when we went and he actively acted as though he did not want to be there. What's up, Jez? Alright, so everyone there was incredibly welcoming and included him in the festivities and conversation. However, he still practically grumbled the entire night about the whole thing, mumbling insults and critiquing every little part of the party under his breath, as though being there was absolutely awful to have to endure. No one really seemed to notice the low whispering insults and gripes. At one point, after a couple of glasses of wine, my direct manager leaned in to Jez and started praising him. She and I are or were very close, therefore she was intimately familiar with what I had gone through with my ex-husband. I am so happy she has you. She belated through wine happy. So, ningon si manager. You have been absolutely transformative for her. It's so nice to see her finally happy and appreciated. Without missing a beat, Jez grimaced at the comment and quickly snapped back. You don't fucking know me. Oh, si Mang, si Monkey siya as a person. I honestly didn't believe my ears. It was one of those moments where time stops and you just don't, or you just know you couldn't have heard that correctly. I sat brewing on it for a minute before another light-hearted interaction with Jez prompted him to suddenly snap at me through grit teeth. Stop it. This triggered me and I lost it. I pulled him outside and asked him what his problem was. I called out his behavior and told him he was going to if he was going to act that way, then he could just leave. That if he didn't want to be there, he should have stayed at home. He ended up giving a sort of half-assed apology, and we went back inside and finished the party. I remember the drive home that night, staring out the dark window at nothing in particular, in worried silence. I might have messed up, was my only thought through the entire drive. This all started out slow, of course, like waving me away or invalidating my experiences and ideas due to my age. That I was just dramatizing my experiences because I was young, etc. The man who, not 6 months prior, had validated me, my trauma, and my experiences to the ends of the earth. Now, every time I started a story or tried to share anything, even trying to plan out meals for the week, he would openly show annoyance as though I was violating his time and attention. Before I knew it, he was snapping at me over every little thing. I asked how his day was or talked about my day. I would aggressively shut it down. Why do you ask me that? I don't want to talk shop at home. I really don't care about your work. It's work. Before I knew it, I couldn't even bring him a plate of breakfast without being snapped at. It was as though he was testing me. When Jez and I first started dating, he flat out refused to talk about most all of his exes. He refused to name them or discuss any of the issues or lessons learned. They didn't matter, he would claim. They weren't in his life for a reason. It was the same reasoning he also used in reference to my more recent exes. Talking about them, including now my ex husband, may as well have become off limits. Anytime I brought up either of our exes, he would become incredibly agitated, belittling, and just overall very aggressive. I took this as both an age gap issue, as I have a tendency to dwell, as well as an insecurity and a threat to the life he was trying to build. So I think she's making excuses for him at this point. Gamer, you know. However, after he moved in, and this hot button topic had been established several times, he would bring up his exes and how they looked, telling me on more than one occasion he never would have dated me back in the day, and that I was lucky he lowered his standards. I didn't even really know what to say to this. I would laugh it off and shove it in my back pocket. Noted. He then started bringing up my looks, accusing me of catfishing him. I had stopped taking care of myself due to the isolation and had also put on some weight. So most of my clothes that I had once felt great in no longer fit. And since Jez had also been dishonest with me about his financial position, he was always needing extra money here and there, leaving me broke almost all of the time. A horrible tragedy happened that following summer. While Jess and I were together, I received notice that a good friend I went to art school with shot himself in the head while tripping on LSD. Our whole class was devastated. He was without contest the best photographer of our class and one of the most kind-hearted individuals I have ever had the pleasure of knowing. Also, as someone who is very familiar with LSD, I was rocked. Jess, however, was far from supportive. He pretty much immediately shrugged it off. That's life, I guess. That's what happened, or that's what he gets for fucking around with LSD. I was baffled at such unsympathetic response, and even more later when Jez started to interrogate me about my relationship with this guy, asking when was the last time that I had even talked to this friend. You don't even know this guy anymore. Who cares? I broke up with him the first time after he called me at work raging. I was busy, so I wasn't able to answer right away. But once I was finally able to answer, I was met with intense anger. It was storming, and one of my dogs was having an anxiety attack due to the storm and separation anxiety. This wasn't the first time, and he was well aware that she needed those moments. Why the fuck aren't you answering my calls? You answer when I call you. I don't care where you are. He went on for a few minutes calling me a shitty girlfriend and laying into me over my sudden distance and lack of communication while I was at work. I mean, who would want to communicate with this guy? At this point, I was done and I lost it. I tore him over everything, especially causing problems for me at work. That being in my life was a privilege, and that he's going to wake up every day acting like he hates me, then I don't know what on earth he's even doing with me. I told him that I expected him to get his things and leave. He was always threatening to go back to his old roommates where there was still room before that. I didn't want him there when I got home, and we could coordinate times for him to come and get the rest. He flat refused, suddenly victimizing himself, claiming that he had nowhere to go. How dare you make me fall in love with you? How dare you take me to meet your father, then dump me? Buwang naman ni si Jessie. My manager and her husband ended up following me home that evening because she was concerned for my safety and offered to let me stay with her for a few days. I will never forget the scene I walked into, like Theon Greyjoy begging for his life. My boss stood next to me, watching as this 42-year-old man crawled on his knees before me, begging for mercy and communication. At one point, wrapping his arms around my legs, crying into them. I can't believe this is happening. She's the love of my life, you know that? He cried to my boss. I couldn't believe what I was witnessing. This was the antithesis of the heartless person I had been spending my days with. I shook him off and went to the back of the house, gathering enough of my things to get me through the next few days, as well as any of the valuables I could think of. It took a few days, but after a week, Jez started blowing up my phone. Apology after apology. Suddenly, he was the man I met again, full of humility, self awareness. He acknowledged the awful way he had treated me and sent me walls and walls of well thought out messages, psychoanalyzing his own behavior, where it comes from, and the ways he knows it needs to change. I took him back. Like the dumb, desperate girl, I took him back. It wasn't long into the second round, second round, that he started to guilt me over the breakup. My panic and had damaged his relationship and I'm sorry, his relationship with people in my life, and he made sure that I knew it was my responsibility to fix it. It wasn't long after that, or it wasn't long after this, that my car ended up breaking down at a gas station close to home. There was a very nice couple in the next vehicle that came to my rescue and checked things out under my hood. The gentleman turned out to be a mechanic for a living, so he had a pretty good theory about what could potentially be going on. By this time, I had already attempted to contact Jez to let him know what was going on and where I was. It wasn't long until he got off work, so he told me to sit tight and he would be there shortly. Meanwhile, this sweet couple stayed put and kept me company while I waited. Jez barreled in about 15 minutes later, completely ignoring the couple that had helped me. Touching base, the gentleman handed me a slip of paper with a name and a phone number on it, reviewing what he thought was going on with my car. Before Jez butted in, cutting him off, I said she's fine, he snapped. I could see the woman out of the corner of my eye slink away at this comment and get into the passenger seat of their car. I could feel the sudden tension, like maybe she's been here before. The gentleman didn't move and shifted his attention to me as Jez walked into the store. I could see he was clearly concerned. Are you okay? He asked in a low, almost whisper. You don't have to answer that, but if you need anything, he looked down at the number in my hand and nodded to it. Seriously. With that, he got into his driver's seat of his car and drove away. I thought about the couple countless times since that night. Everything went right back to the way it was before. I mean, of course. As though the initial breakup never happened. The same eggshells, the same belittling. If anything, it was worse because I had permanently damaged our relationship. If I had just not been so dramatic, if I didn't run away from everything, then maybe he wouldn't have to work so hard for respect in my life. One night, we got into an argument. I don't even remember what it was about, but I had to be up early for work the next morning. So I paused the argument in order to get some sleep. When I went to lay down, I heard the TV turn on. I have a sound bar, so the volume can get pretty loud. Jez proceeded to turn the volume up and up and up, far past any volume I ever pushed those same speakers to, even for parties. The very walls were reverberating with the sound of the TV at an astronomical volumes. Jez then started laughing hysterically. It was a laughter manic with anger, as though something might be funny on TV, but he might also jump through a window right now. I remember laying in bed absolutely horrified at what was happening. I knew things had gotten bad, but now I was scared. I got out of bed and asked him to turn it down, to which he responded, scoffing, I'll watch TV if I fucking want to, and turned it up even louder. I felt like I was in a horror movie. I started crying at this point, begging him to please, please just let me sleep. He started mocking me and calling me names for crying. Ooh, wah, poor baby is crying again. That's your card, isn't it? Crying. This caused the fight to start again, and he started screaming at me, followed me to my bedroom, where he suddenly punched a door not 2 inches from my head. His eyes were black and he looked me in the eye, sending the clear and sympathetic and hostile message that was a warning and that next time he wouldn't miss. My whole system had shut down at this point, and I sunk to the floor in a panic attack. My ex husband had issues with violence. Jez knew that. All our rentals prior to that one had holes in the walls and doors, peppered throughout our unit due to my ex husband's inability to handle his emotions. But he never hit me or even came close to it. I crumpled to the ground, feeling powerless, trapped, and afraid. As my thoughts continued to race, he continued to berate and mock my panicked state. Most of our argument from that night was a blur, but ended abruptly once he threatened to put my social security number on the dark web. At this point, all that was left in me was to fight. I blacked out and went ballistic, screaming at him to get out. I felt rabid and dangerous as I screamed like a banshee for him to leave my home. I It was over, and I was ending it that second. I contacted my landlord and explained what had been going on. Jez would also end up contacting her, weaving his own tale that I was moving out and tried to leave the lease transferred to his name. Luckily, since I was several steps ahead of him, my landlord didn't fall for it and had contacted me immediately. She personally came and changed my locks for me. She gave me the personal contact of a police officer close by in case he showed up again, and took half off my rent for the next month. I am forever grateful to her for these simple acts of kindness that were above and beyond anything I could ever expect from a landlord. It took weeks for him to stop messaging me. The only reason I didn't block him was out of fear that he would show up at my house. Though I had contacts for protection, I knew I would rather get a daily apology video than to have to deal with him on my doorstep. So they persisted for a while at the same act before. The love bombing, the promises, grasping at straws, trying to find a weak spot where I would let him back in. But I ignored it. I continued for weeks before he finally gave up. He bowed out gracefully, stating boldly that he will always love me. I left him on red. The illusion was destroyed. It took me several years to pick up the pieces. If my divorce wasn't enough, this definitely made me lose trust in myself. I still don't understand what the end game was. In one of our last discussions, I asked him desperately, what happened to the guy I fell in love with? Jazz looked at me, dead in the eye, smirked, and said, "That guy doesn't exist. I told you what I had to tell you in order to get you away from that fucking asshole husband of yours. You're just stupid and fell for it. Jazz, let's not meet again."
Bugo siya
What
daw na
was that?
Tagano second chance.
Oh, actually, mabuo
Mm.
to. Ifoto niya.
Lagi no, dali ra ta kay to na human if wala siya niya og second chance.
Grabe dako naman kayo nga red flag ang ilang una nga
Oh, di
kuan.
ba? No.
Ngano,
I
Well,
mean,
higit mo sa
for
na iyang taste sa gas
mirisi
daw.
na nimo ate girl.
well,
I mean, actually lang, I mean, I don't know,
actually,
nagpakatanga-tanga lang sa guru siya atong nga time.
I think katong nahatag siya og second chance kay she did that to herself na gid siguro kay mean naman siya mismo kaan nga mean man ang guy. So,
Lagi. Diya,
True.
kanang, di pa gid siya kuan na, then nagbinutan na banta, compliment pa siya, ano yung ubuan na, you don't know me, like, the hell?
And katupong gingnan siya nga, unsa to, that guy doesn't exist. Ako ra tong gipangsulti para makuha ka from your asshole husband. Like,
to be the new asshole in your life.
yeah.
Isn't
Damn.
that, I don't know, isn't that like common? I mean, it happens when you meet people and kanang nag-pursue pa sila nimo ay amazing, perfect ka sila. Yeah, once nakuha na kanila or once kamo na or once they move in na mo together kay wala na. True colors.
Yeah, true, did not.
I think that story for me lang ha. The main for me the main lesson there was when you see red flags or when you spot red flags and again naka nakasa na gid nimo like like that kanang intentional na gid iyang pagkuan nimo ba
Yeah. Ang si
learn to
si
spot
si
it.
OP kay nakatilaw na siya. Nakaibaw na siya unsa nahitabo. Ibalik pa jud siya. Ikatilaw siya kusap.
Mm.
Naus ba nun siya?
But I guess po to her, I mean, in her defense, I think manipulative people have a way of keeping you in their grasp, and maybe wa pa sa jud siya natauhan kay maybe she was made to believe everything was her fault.
Yeah.
So, and that's the sucky part.
Yeah, mga gaslighter,
Mm.
manipulator. Sad boy,
I wonder.
manipulative sad boy man to si Jez.
Yeah.
Putang ina mo,
Uh,
Jez.
I wonder
Itguwang
sa
na kayo.
kayang nong,
Lagi
no? Like,
nag-imagine ko sa
karang,
katong 42-year-old nga nag-crawl to beg nga
Oh,
ni kuan sa
naglulod.
legs like
Yan na
cringy.
pagilaing tao.
Gani, wala tog siya. Lain tao po jud siya ni hold on, di ba? Ang ako may
What?
numduman man na kay sa una akong auntie pa dong trabaho di na ako palakon so adto ko siyang legs. Kaya kauwaw na if grown man mabuhat ana to
yeah.
another person nga dili niya intimately close with like
Right.
Oh.
weird man
But
child. Okay, Google
old
play
man
Man
child.
Child by Sabrina Carpenter.
Wala siya nga kana kuan. I don't know. Dealing with kan ba, for example, natay friend nga victim of manipulation and mind games. And butang tay nga ana, ya kita nga friend kay ka witness kita nga unsa ka terrible ang iyang uyab. I'm not saying nga natay nga na nga friend ha. Kana ni siya nang hypothetical. Kanang how would you even kanang let her, tell her about it if siya mismo kay mo believe siya nga kanang it's her fault, or mo believe siya sa tanang gisulti sa guy. I don't know how to even convince someone. Ingon ana.
Actually, need yun na siya maximum effort sa imong side. Kay lisod kay na siya tibagon ka ng mga anak na nga murag fix na kay lang mindset ba. Like dili lang sa inanano nga mind games and manipulation. Nabi tay friend nga
Ay,
nagka-try na before nga kanang kapila na ni mo storyaan, di jud minaw. Nga balik-balik na lang ang storya, yung balik-balik ra pud ang mahitabo. Di ba? So ang
ila pa nga
mahitabo,
friend.
oh, kailan tatulo. Oh, kanang inana kay maximum effort na dyan na and most of the
Ah,
time, di
yeah,
dyan na siya mutalab. Di dyan na siya mutalab until sila mismo ang mutagam.
that
So,
is true.
I mean, you can do so much jud sa imong pagstorya and all, pero ang last decision, ang final say kay lahara jud gyapon na. So, imuha na lang yung hunahon nga unta di pa siya mutagam before siya mo realize or worse things would happen before siya makarealize nga hala di nam din ni mao. So yeah, muna siya.
Also,
You can only do so much pero if sila di jud kay wa jud.
that makes sense. That
True
sucks.
that.
That
Hopefully
sucks.
lang, no? Hopefully, like, ma-okay ra jud na sila. Kaya mga victims of, kuan ba? Yeah, like, if like, currently, yeah, I mean, hopefully, anyone nga suffer sa hands karon sa mga manipulators, gaslighters, and sociopaths. Hopefully, like, makalingkawas na mo soon. And, ma-okay ra gyud mo ba? Okay, naging hope. Napay hope, guys. Oh, shucks. Ay na magpailan, guys.
Sa true lang. Kay the more mo stay the more mo di kita sa sakto.
Mm.
Correct. And for me, but I don't know, it's a weird thought. It's a random thought. I don't know how if I'll agree or not, but example, you've been in a, messed up, nga na, messed up in a relationship. I think it would suck kay, I think, at the slightest, kana ganing, at the slightest, kanang show of kindness sa laing tao, kay dali na sad kay ka ma-attract, and I don't know if you could tell if genuine, and it might become a cycle, and, end up being manipulated all over again. I don't know. Just a thought.
Yeah, true.
So thank you for that long ass story. It's okay. Undeniably very long, but still insightful. Okay, you're not the asshole, OP. So for pop culture segment, our topic is as shiny as it's shady. Influencers and the art of psychological manipulation and social media. Okay. So here's the thing. Social media was supposed to democratize influence, give everyone a voice, right? Sorry. Vampire, right?
Samok.
Vampire will feed
What
me.
happened, Bella? What
Oh
happened,
no. Influencers,
Katie?
right? Okay, but what we're seeing now is something much deeper. Influencers, some knowingly and some maybe not, are tapping into psychological triggers to sell not just products, but lifestyles, identities, and beliefs. So, the power of parasocial relationships. Let's talk about parasocial relationships. These are one sided connections where you feel like you know someone intimately, but they don't even know you exist. Sound familiar? That's how influencers thrive. Um, they post relatable content, open up about personal struggles, or do casual Q&As, but it's all carefully curated to make you feel emotionally connected. So once you trust them, once you feel close to them, that's when you're more likely to buy whatever they're selling. It's not just about beauty products anymore, it's financial advice, supplements, and even political views. Diba? And so now let's talk about scarcity and FOMO triggers. Another tool in the manipulation toolbox, scarcity. Ever seen an influencer say, only three left in stock? Or this deal ends in 5 hours? Even if it's not true, it creates FOMO, fear of missing out, which leads to impulsive decisions that taps into primal instinct. We don't want to be left out of the tribe, the trend, the moment. So, the third part of this topic, uh, filters, body image, and identity manipulation. So let's not ignore the visual side of this. Filters, perfect angles, airbrushed skin, these are powerful visual manipulations. Young users, especially teens, start believing that these edited versions are the standard. It fuels insecurity and body dysmorphia. And what's wild is that some influencers sell the very products to fix those insecurities they helped create. Skincare, fitness programs, cosmetic procedures. That's the loop. And is it all intentional? Now, are all influencers villains? No. Some are for sure. They're like, some are just playing the game to survive and make a living. Okay, but that's where the conversation shifts from individual blame to systemic design. But the social media platforms, like the big ones, reward content that manipulates attention. That's the real machine behind the curtain. The next time you're scrolling, ask yourself, is this person trying to inspire me or influence me? Are they being authentic or strategic? Because once you see the game, it's harder to get played. So what do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not on social media a lot, but I guess that makes sense, especially if kana kay mag-create kag insecurity
Yeah.
sa mga tao, play on people's insecurity, and in a way influencing them to see that you are the standard, so that whatever you sell, people are just gonna be hungry for it.
Yeah,
Scary,
for
scary stuff.
sure.
I mean, sa ako lang sad siguro no kay although chronically online man ko pero dili ko dali masway ang mga inana. Dili ko dali mabudol ba. Kanang unsa ako
Yeah.
mga makit-an nga kani kay nice daw ni, nice daw na. And like okay, okay, good for you if nice siya but dili jud ko kanang mabait gani. Nga sige swayan jud na to kay nice man jud daw. But
Live
Ni-react na
reaction
ako kay live reactor dire,
recommendation.
oy. I mean, yeah, but Fritzy, on the other hand, dali ka na siya mabudol. Although, mag-research man noon siya. So, but, you know, ako di lang, duga lang jud ko mabudol siguro og mga inana nga kanang maghuna-una mo ko nga for the views ra ni oy kanang for the engagement in ana ba. And but yeah, mo lang na siya ako ang input ana, but nadyo uban nga mabudol jud, like dali jud kay mabudol, especially kanang kabantay mo ng mga moingon nga ari mo ani nga link kay maka-earn mo online, buhat mo ani, join mo ani, and like ang may tabo kay mo join sad niya mang-invite mo dug lain tao. So I don't know, but
Ooh.
yeah, kana sila ga-think, kana sila nga mga influencers ga-think ra pud na ang mga kwarta sila. Katong gingon ni Kate nga for survival pod nila kay ilang gi-think kay makakwarta ram sad sila. But at the same time mo na makailad sa jud sa uban. So yeah.
Isa ka example kay katong mga celebrities nga, I mean, big stars na jud kay sila pero mag-promote sila og online gambling.
Nadine. But yeah, kato ka na din na issue lang dyan to siya, no? Kay, I think people didn't see it coming ba? Kay
Yeah.
murag sukwahi kay siya sa iyang advocacies and all. But yeah, if you think about it, they get paid man good. So, if ikaw gurbi, dako kay hatag nimo, dili ka
Yeah.
nga, sige ka na lang, di man ka need nga mubuhat ana jud, but you know, maka-influence man jud good ka.
Because you're
Especially
promoting it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Mhm.
Grabe na uso na kayo ang online gambling. Uso na kay
Mm.
siya, and people are kidding. You're selling it to the wrong audience because you're selling it to people who are also struggling. Yet,
Yeah.
knowing that that's addictive, like it's
Magunaw na ka
online
ba nga,
gambling.
mupusta lang tani, suway lang good. Yung dako bitog makuha. Pusta na pud balik. And muna,
Mm.
nayo tay mga kailang na nabaon sa utang tungod sa online
Nabudol,
gambling.
nabudol na din.
Nabudulin na din. But yeah, na jud mi mga kaila personally nga kanang kana na nabudol, nagkautang-utang tungod ana, swipe diri, swipe dito para ana. And even mga batchmates nami mga batchmates mo kalitlag chat. Kay hello, na kay 200 sa GCash, and like, huh?
Kanang mga
Yeah.
Gcash yun, yeah, small amounts ra niya. Sure kay para kita ngayon ag 200.
Na kanang GCash, bas ana na siya ang pattern, guys. GCash niya minimum 200. Wala na kay bawo na taasa na ba do.
Maday.
Ako personally, I'm gonna share. I tried it because I was curious, out of curiosity. So I put some money in it, kind of online gambling, and I gave it a shot. Oh, sige ko, pistit ako kwarta.
Kasuway
I was
sad ko
like,
actually.
okay,
Konto
this
ako
is
na
not
try
for me.
sa GCash yan ng color game, but di man ko swerte. Oy, di ko swerte. So, murag mga once or twice ra, and like, di jud ko swerte. So, wala ko ni try again.
Kaya na mo kay
Akong
mga friends na magingon ana, inadala ko
Oh.
na.
Like mo na siya. You've been influenced.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was curious. Like, what's and yeah, it lasted like one night because I sucked at it and I was like, di man ni fun.
Yeah, di ba?
Ano na-addict man ng mga tao.
Ako nalingaw ani.
Pagkuha na lang mo guys, pag Candy Crush, mamura man ng colors most likely.
True.
So mao na siya, guys. Be careful who you follow online. It's good to be inspired by people, but we vet not only the people we date, but the people we also follow and get inspired with. So Masha, ay dito magpa-mind games.
True, guys.
Yeah.
And if ever victims mo ana, I hope ka nang nam sa mga tao no, ana mga street smart, mga wais-wais ba nga maka-detect gani. So for some nga dili, so hopefully, you know, maka-learn mo to spot the patterns and dili mo fall victims into that kind of situations.
So the blend's over for now, but the chaos never stops.
Stay tuned, stay bold.
And we'll catch you on the flip side. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.